Naafiri, the Hound of 100 Bytes, is one of the easiest assassins in the game. Designed to be played without using a keyboard, Naafiri actually has a huge knowledge check that differentiates the Gold Naafiri mains from the Challenger NAAFIRI. This is RaveyDemon, Challenger NAAFIRI player who got here with nothing more than fundamentals, a gigantic brain and a secret technique to exponentially increase his damage. Today, we will talk with Ravey to figure out how does he carry as NAAFIRI, what differentiates a low elo NAAFIRI from a high elo one, and what's his secret technique to one-shotting with NAAFIRI.
My name is RaveyDemon, but for sure just say Ravey. I've been playing since season 2, and I've gotten Challenger in season 8, in Challenger since then. But to go back in history, right, in season 3 I used to main Sivir, Kha'Zix, and Rengar. Those were my top 3 most played. Fast forward season 8 now, we transition into a Kled main. I do play other champions, right, but NAAFIRI came out. I played her a lot since then. I started to play her like primarily.
Why did you decide to play NAAFIRI?
I like champions that are melee mostly, but has at least a range ability, like they can play a little mid-range.
Did season 14 change anything about NAAFIRI?
The assassin items got changed up quite a bit, and she got direct buffs too. Yeah, they actually hotfix buffed her because she was really struggling. I've been telling people to stop taking flash on NAAFIRI and go ghost instead. It's a lot better on her. It's still a work in progress, right? Not every player has really converted their builds.
How would you describe NAAFIRI's early game?
Early game of NAAFIRI is very weak. A lot of people really struggle with NAAFIRI because they are not used to playing a champion that is that weak. A lot of people just need to understand that you shouldn't try to fight early. You should focus on farming. So the only time you should be queuing your opponent is for mana flow ban. Just focus on farming in the early game because you're weak.
How do you get ahead in the game? Do you prefer to dominate your lane or to invade the enemy jungle?
So I always try to teach people that you shouldn't stick to one thing. Like, you should always adapt. You should look at the jungler that you have and look at the enemy jungler. Try to learn a bit about jungle matchups. If I have an aggressive jungler, I know they're going to want to invade, so I can push my wave and then rotate. It really does come down to what you're playing against, but you should always try to keep an open mind about what you can do in a game. So some games you should be farming in the lane, and then sometimes you should be roaming or invading. It really depends on the matchup.
What are your favorite matchups for NAAFIRI?
PF, Aurelion Soul 2. So I played against Lux before and it was pretty easy. Those are mid lane champs. For top lane, my favorite would be playing against like Aatrox and like Rumble, because Aatrox, you can easily dodge his abilities and you keep your distance from him and you can harass him with your Q while focusing on dodging abilities. And for Rumble, once you get out of the laning phase, the early game, you can always kill him. Like, it's so easy to kill him like once you get into the mid to late game. Aurelion Soul Q actually stops at the first thing that it hits. Let's say my dogs, for example, are in front of Aurelion Soul. His Q will actually hit my dog and not hit me.
What are NAAFIRI's hardest matchups?
For mid lane, the Kiana and Lissandra are the top 2. Azir is very annoying too, but I think Azir is just broken, so yeah. Talia is also bad. Lissandra, she has a point and click stun, which is her R, and her W is a AoE instant root. You just get locked down very easily. For top lane, to be honest, mostly all top laners matchups are really bad. NAAFIRI isn't very good against tanks, but Tryndamere is the worst. I usually ban Aurelia. You should ban Aurelia too if you're going mid lane. For top lane, I ban Fiora. So those two matchups are really bad, but I don't really play them a lot.
NAAFIRI was meant to be a lane bully by design. Do you BM your opponents for emotional warfare?
In lane, NAAFIRI does pull people out with Q, and I like to run Comet. I usually emote at the start of the game to say hello. I don't really dance or emote on my opponents after I kill them, but I don't generally like be dancing and trying to disrespect.
What are NAAFIRI's power spikes?
Around like level 6 is not the biggest spike. In some matchups it's good. Another spike is level 9 when you have at least 3 dogs walking around you, because their passive, she has 2 dogs from level 1 to level 8. But from level 9 onwards, she has 3 dogs. And each time she puts a point in the ulti, it gains an additional dog. At level 6, right, you get 2 extra dogs. At level 11, 3 extra dogs. And level 16, right, when you have 3 points in ultimate, you get 4 dogs. Typically, you have to wait until you get Eclipse. That is the item that you should be rushing on NAAFIRI. I do have guides out explaining that to the whole NAAFIRI player base. Profane Hydra is also another spike. And Serla is the peak spike because it gives armor pen. It gives a slow. Naafiri, she has a bleed on her Q. If you hit them with a Q, they're gonna be slowed throughout that like entire duration. Also, your dogs. So every time your dogs auto attack, they will actually slow the opponent.
How would you describe the mid game?
Mid game is where Naafiri starts to come online because in the mid game, if you are on good item base, you should be able to kick people in side lane, and then you use that side lane pressure to get turrets. She gets really strong going into mid to late game.
When playing a champion to its utmost limit, optimization becomes everything. Ravey gets this, and so he has discovered how to optimize Naafiri's otherwise simple kit to make the most damage possible at every given chance. This is how he does it.
Yeah, I did actually make a video on this. So your Q, right? Second Q, it does more damage the more health the opponent is missing. It doesn't cap out. Most executes, right? They do their maximum amount of damage once the opponent reaches like 30% HP. But Naafiri Q actually keeps going up even beyond that, right? So even if they're on 10% health, it's doing more damage. In your full damage combo, like when you press R and then you W in and then you Q, you should auto attack and use your E as well, and then you auto attack again. You try to auto attack as much as you can, especially in the early game. Not only is that you're doing more damage because you are auto attacking, right? Your dogs will also auto attack, and the opponent's getting low on health, which means that your second Q will do even more damage.
What is Naafiri's role in team fights?
Her primary role should be a flanker, so you should be coming in from the sidelines and picking off these squishy champions. You never really want to start the engage. You should wait until the fight starts first, and then you go in while the opponents use their core abilities on other champions or your teammates, and then you go in and just clean up from the back line.
How would you describe Naafiri's late game?
Late game for Naafiri is really peak because you can duel almost anyone. Ulti gives you a big shield. So in the late game, you should be getting around 700 from your ulti. The way a Naafiri shield works is that when she presses ulti, the first time she hits a champion with an ability or auto attack, you gain a shield, and this is like 700. After you get your first takedown, your ulti resets, so you gain another shield. She's deceptively quite tanky because of the shields.
What do you do differently than a Diamond Naafiri?
They have problems with team fighting, like for the Naafiri players at least. There is usually like the team fighting that there are issues with. The people that struggle with Naafiri in the early game are the people that are very new to her. Yeah, they don't understand that, hey, this champion just can't just dash under the opponent and just win like how other champions would. I think overall though, if I was to say there's something that maybe a diamond player would not be doing, is farming. They really need to prioritize farming and not try to solo kill your opponent early.
What do you like most about League of Legends?
I mean, I think League is a very competitive game. Like, I don't think any other game really has such a close, like, competitive ladder. I think nothing really stays the same. Each game can play out so differently. And also the game does a patch every 2 weeks, which can noticeably really change the game. I've observed other games where they have patches, but the game doesn't really change. Like Apex Legends, the game is the same for the next 3 months. So I think that is something that League and a lot of players don't appreciate this in the League community, is that the game is always changing.
What has been your most epic matchup?
I mean, recently, I think my most nicest matches were against Solar Backup. I did drop a YouTube video, I think a month or 2 ago against him. And I even have a new one coming out soon where I got like, I think 21 kills.
What would you say to an aspiring Naafiri player?
She's very fun. I always say, like, if you play a champion and you really enjoy the champion, you will seek out to get better or improve at it. If you are very interested in anything in life, you will research more about it, which means that you will improve, whether it's like practicing or etc. Like, you will get better at it or know more about it and have an interest. If you play the champion, you're gonna like the champion and you're gonna have fun and want to improve.
Bonus, what is your most controversial take on Naafiri?
Well, Naafiri is an easy champion because her abilities are very simple, but to actually execute her though can be more difficult because your W is a point and click dash that you're like stun lock, right, when using, so you have to really play around not baiting yourself with that because the opponents can easily like counter her. Like, she's very like straightforward as a champion, so even though she's very easy, right? She's very straightforward as well, right? With the W. So you gotta know how to like not like you gotta play around that a lot. So that's where the difficulty with the champion comes. So she is easy to like, execute, right? But she's very hard to actually play when it comes to like playing against good players at least.
If you could ask something to another League streamer, what would it be?
I've been watching LS for years. I think he's my most watched streamer too, right? I would like to one day be on his stream. I've even played PBE game with him. I even like my sub alert is actually him saying like Jamaica and top. That's my best friend because he watched a Synapse clip. He saw me playing Kled and he was like, "Oh, this guy is clean."
Where can viewers find you?
I'm primarily a streamer though. I stream every day on Twitch or twitch.tv/RaveyDemon. I do YouTube too. That's where I can put out the information and guides and such.
Thank you. Have a good evening. Bye bye.
All right, take care. Sleep.